YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Was old US intelligence to blame for a strike on a school in Iran? Well, we've got the preliminary findings of the investigation. It's likely the United States fired the missile, the word likely doing some heavy lifting given the mounting evidence. The missile didn't veer off. The school was mistaken for a military target, and Israel was involved in the process of selecting targets. It's a damning draft report, and one the president seems reluctant to talk about.
A new report says the military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school.
I don't know about it.
The US has been bombing Iranian mine-laying vessels in the Strait of Hormuz in a desperate attempt to secure the world's busiest oil shipping route and drive down prices again.
Prices are coming down very substantially. Oil will be coming down. That's just a matter of war. That happens you can almost predict it. I would say it went up a little bit less than we thought. It's going to come down more than anybody understands.
It's a midterm election year, so the president is back on the campaign trail in Ohio and Kentucky, and back on message. America first, both making the case for war and talking down the significance of it.
We did an excursion. You know what an excursion is? We had to take a little trip to get rid of some evil, very evil people. It should have been done. For 47 years, they've been killing our people.
But the cost of the war can't be brushed over, either in dollars or in human terms. The president's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, says he hasn't seen the draft report, but will accept the outcome of the investigation. It's pointing towards a spectacular intelligence failure, one that cost the lives of 165 people, most of them school children. The missile didn't veer off. The school was mistaken for a military target, and Israel was involved in the process of selecting targets.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Obviously, we know that the narratives we receive about wars are fictional. It does not mean that murder and genocide is not taking place, but of course, this illusion that bombs and bullets are being shot, as if this was images that we saw as children in textbooks, which we all know were propaganda in school, of the Civil War, where people were on a battlefield shooting one another, or images of World War II or Vietnam. Those are all an illusion in today's world, because there's no military fighting military in any of these wars. All it is what I call a land grab. Clearing out land, no different than a land developer who comes in, takes over an apartment building, evicts everybody, then demolishes that apartment building because they're going to build a skyscraper or something else. So the visions that we see of war and what we're told are different from what's actually happening. And that's how they, in a way, simulate war. But what they really do is commit mass genocide. People do die during these events. There are people being murdered over in the Middle East. And of course, should it surprise anybody that a story comes out about the United States of America and Israel accidentally blowing up a school? You don't hear MAGA going crazy about all these innocent children who are being murdered over in Iran, but all you hear about are the Epstein files and going after Democrats. The hypocrisy is truly unbelievable. Now, do we know for sure that children in this school were actually killed? Of course not. We can only go off of some images that are uploaded by civilians, because obviously we can't trust anything in the news. But what this story does is it amplifies what we know is coming, which is a massive attack on U.S. soil. And of course, they'll use things like this as an excuse for it. Well, you attacked Iran, you came after us, you and Israel together came after us. You know, the same people who still follow the teachings of child sacrifice to Moloch decided that they were going to use a blueprint to go after a children's school, and everybody in America turns a blind eye who is a Christian and supporting Israel. No surprise, right? But this opens up a potential attack on U.S. soil more than ever before. Because imagine and think about how people react in America when we have our false flag school shootings, right? We have Sandy Hook and how angry people in this country are if you even question if Sandy Hook happened or not, despite the overwhelming evidence that nothing occurred, that the people didn't even exist. And it's out of the grasp of possibility for these people to think that they were using AI imagery back in, what year was it, 2012, 2013, around that time period? Oh yeah, I'm sure that technology didn't exist until 2020. The government would never use that against you. But now people start thinking, they say, hey, maybe the people didn't exist. Maybe the entire thing was make-believe. And we know all the school shootings, for the most part, that occur on U.S. soil are always obviously government driven. They are false flags, whether it's your trans shooter or whether it's your shooter who, looks like the kid at Sandy Hook, and everybody believes the story, especially if it fits their narrative. Now, we know some conservatives question Sandy Hook, but the majority of Democrats did not, and they wanted people like us thrown in jail for even questioning it. That's why they did that charade trial with Alex Jones, so that they could make it so that, hey, if you question any stories in the news, you're going to lose everything you own and potentially even serve prison time in the future when we get our hate crime laws in place, and we'll have it as a hate crime if you question the news. So we know how people in America respond to these school events that actually happen, but you don't see that type of outcry when it's 168 supposed children who were killed in Iran because it's their team who's behind the actual killing, and that's all part of the left-right paradigm. These people turn a blind eye to things like, well, Jeffrey Epstein's a pedo, we got to throw everybody on the list to jail. And there's nobody in more photographs with Epstein than Donald Trump that's at least released to all of us, and they turn a blind eye, right? If it's a Republican, they turn a blind eye. If it's a Democrat, they want them arrested. So that's the story that's out there about this school. And again, you could take this for what it's worth because it comes from the news. So we don't know, and we shouldn't believe or trust anything unless we see it with our own eyes, but it would not surprise any of us who are awake and in the know. Of course, they're all about child sacrifice and human sacrifice. People died on 9/11, but of course, the narrative was nothing like what we were told the narrative is. In fact, it's the current team working together, the U.S. and Israel, who are responsible for that specific day. So we have this building being bombed, the school being bombed, this Iranian school. And they claim, of course, how convenient. I mean, this is how dumb the U.S. people are. Outdated intelligence, right? Now, who is responsible for the intelligence in this Iranian war? Who is responsible for Israeli intelligence? Palantir is responsible, right? We all saw all the stories. Palantir and Israel agree to strategic partnership for battle tech. And we know that Palantir is now obviously operating in America because America and Israel are one in the same. And we know how they're using Palantir to track every movement of every person, to find illegal immigrants, and somehow we're allowing this. But we're supposed to believe that Palantir, who's seemingly everywhere all at once, and they could see everything that's happening and everything we're saying, and they're mapping even our bodies and the temperature of our bodies with our cell phone. You name it, Palantir's doing it. But, oopsie daisy, they accidentally blew up a school because they have outdated military intelligence. I mean, if you believe that, you probably believe still that Frosty the Snowman came to life one day. So that's the one story that's out there. And again, remember the big thing with that story. Obviously, if children are killed, it's a huge thing. We don't know that for sure. But having that story out there, what does it do? Well, that gives means for a massive attack on U.S. Not only does the conflict going on and the U.S. attacking Iran, but that specific story could lead to a bombing of a U.S. school or university as a target in the future. So keep that in mind, right? Tick for tat type of deal here where they say, well, we did it to you because you did it to us, and now we can escalate this further. And you may have noticed the other story that's out there. This is minor, but it's not really minor. If you look at all the major supposed media outlets, every single one of them is just showing us tanks being blown up. Iran targets oil facilities and tankers across the Gulf. So U.S. tanks being blown up. We have tanks over there being blown up. And here's all the stories. The world just smashed the emergency glass on oil prices. Now it's time for Trump to fix it. This is the biggest oil disruption in history. These are the headlines that are out there. Again, problem, reaction, solution. The news is there to plant seeds. It's there to manipulate you. It's there to try to guide you to do what they want you to do. That's what they do this for. So now they're scaring everybody about gas prices again through the roof, right? Oil soars above 100 despite historic release. They're threatening that actually might go up to $200 a barrel. Look at all the headlines. Iran war updates. Well, what's the update? Well, I don't see anything in here about the potential of the school. Iran, oil tops 100. Oil price spikes. Look at this. NBC, New York Times, PBS, Iran war, surging oil. Right? It's affecting consumers. Attacks reported on 3 more cargo ships. Now, normally in war like the Civil War, right? I mean, if you were getting a newspaper, you're getting pigeon mail back then, right? You might get so-and-so was killed, 25 people were killed on this bridge over here. We're just getting reports about oil tankers being blown up. And why? Well, because we're hearing stories about how in Australia, how much gas are they going to have? How much fuel are they going to have in Australia, right? Because, of course, we know Australia is always the beginning breeding ground for these things, right? There's a few countries, China number 1, Australia number 2. Get rid of the guns, get rid of the knives, right? And what do we know? Well, we know they want everybody to go electric because it's part of Agenda 2030. And this is the headline today, the Iran war, a reminder why electric vehicles protect consumers, because they want you in this, right? This embarrassment, or as we all really should be calling it, well, I'll just let him say it for us.
Get your hand off that. Off what? Your sister or your bagmobile? Your bagmobile.
That's right. Yeah, a queer-mobile, right? These embarrassing things that we've seen people actually purchase and drive on the roads. Headlines, drivers wonder if they should go electric as the war spikes gas prices. This is how your government operates. This is mind control at its finest. And remember, this is a part of the big push for Agenda 2030. But car makers taking big losses because nobody is buying electric vehicles. In fact, the data shows as of early 2026 that approximately 3 to 7% of U.S. adults own an electric vehicle, compared to what? The global number, which is about 25% of new cars sold, are electric. They want to get that number up, even if it's 1%, 2%. Okay? I'm not saying they're not going to sell gas-powered cars. I'm not saying this is the end of fuel. But if they hold this over for 6 months, 8 months, for a year, now remember, the conflict's been going on a couple years now with Israel, okay? Right? And all this stuff over in the Middle East. They have this go on for a couple years, and the gas prices just sit at $7, $8, and we're told we have to do this. It's for the betterment of humanity, and MAGA will support it, right? And suddenly they start going, all right, the number goes from 3%. They go, oh, it's up to 10%, because that's how they work. This isn't a full-on push. They're not going to show up. If you live in an apartment complex, they're not going to show up at your front door and all your neighbors and say, there's 100 people there, and say 50 are Democrats, 50 are Republicans. Most don't get along with each other based on political, affiliation, right? But if they showed up there, and every single one of those people, 100 people there, drove a gas-powered vehicle, and they said, give us your keys. Well, all 100 of them would suddenly say, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. We have people coming after us. They're taking our cars. You'd all team up. Then you'd all go after the government for doing that. That's the one thing they cannot have happen. So what they do is they create this propaganda, and then they convince you it's in your best interest to do what they say. And they continue to do it and continue to do it, and they continue to do it in ways where they inflate prices, right? They make gas so expensive, they price you out of the market where you have to get an electric vehicle. And the stats just tick up and up and up and up, and time goes by, and 3%, 7% turns into 20%, 25%. Then, of course, we have the states start outlawing, right? Democrat states start outlawing gas-powered vehicles because we hear more propaganda about climate change. The next thing you know, everybody's forced into an electric vehicle. Now, they use this type of propaganda all the time. And MAGA falls for it, hook, line, and sinker. The other ones who think they're awake, who have become more irritating than anybody walking the earth. Remember when Elon Musk decided he was going to team up with Trump? Lifelong Democrat, guy who wants to put chips inside your body, right? Guy who says we should all have equal income, right? Everybody should have the same amount of income. Everyone's going to lose their jobs because of the robots that he wants you to bring into your home. Well, all it took was for him to say he was working with Trump and he's a part of Doge, this fictional, branch of government that was going to give you $5,000 rebates in the mail, which you still haven't received, right? And then all of a sudden, Elon Musk was winning over Republican fans, right? And then they had all the Democrats graffiti his Tesla stations when we know it was really the government themselves and him himself and his employees themselves graffitiing his, Tesla dealerships, right? And what happened? Everyone got upset. People like Donald Trump said, I'm buying electric vehicle. I'm going to buy a Tesla to support Elon because Elon's trying to help everybody out there. And then suddenly MAGA, like the suckers they are, started buying electric vehicles and not even paying attention to the fact that they're falling into Agenda 2030, which is what it's all about, right? One of the massive agendas that's a part of this is getting more and more people on electric or in electric vehicles. This is controllable, okay? Electric vehicles are the center of smart cities, okay? We know that they're building new gas-powered cars that have Wi-Fi, have all this stuff, they have the cameras, but they still need you in electric. They need to be able to limit how much you travel. And gasoline is a no-no because you can constantly go. You can find a gas station in the middle of, the middle of Iowa, and you can continue on a journey and go cross country. That stuff is going to be eliminated. Amazon, I've talked about Amazon Sidewalk, right? Everything connected. This is the smart city, right? We all know about it. Everything, every camera connected, every sidewalk connected, every home connected, every car connected, right? Companies across sectors limit travel, embrace electric cars, and eco-certified stays as sustainability grounds. Of course, that's going to be part of the climate agenda, which we know is about the carbon footprint, which is really just going to imprison us. That's what this is about. It's about imprisoning us, right? States quietly moving to restrict how much you drive. Remember, that's what COVID was about, more than just getting poison in your body, right? It was about getting you accustomed to not going to see grandma, not going to see your parents, doing everything over the phone, right? Before that, nobody was FaceTiming. People would do Skype and things like that. Now people are just like, I don't have to go see grandma for Christmas. I don't have to go see my parents. I'll just use my phone. I'll stay in my home. I'll get accustomed. I'm already accustomed to staying home because during COVID, what'd everybody do? You ordered groceries, had them delivered to your door. Or if you went to your grocery store like Ralph's, what would you do? Well, you would go and do curbside pickup because you weren't allowed to go inside, right? Getting you accustomed to live in your prison. They've already gotten everybody to set their homes up as a prison because all the smart technology in our homes is listening, it's filming, okay? They can't fit all of us in jail. They would love to if they could. That's their dream. It has always been their dream to imprison all of us, the human race. But they've done it in an illusion. This is an illusion where people think that they're free. But all this technology is going right to the NSA. It's going right to the government. So you might say, I don't care. You don't care if they're watching you shower? You're just imagining that they're not watching you shower. You're just imagining they're not watching you take a dump. You're imagining they're not watching you make love to your wife, right? Because you go, oh, they're not doing that. Of course they are. All this technology is giving them eyes in your home, and that's what the all-seeing eye of Big Brother is, right? Now, what's the one thing? Because if you think about everybody's home, there's something in there because you're probably on a phone. I'm on a computer, right? These are listening devices. Let's not be hypocrites about it. We might not have Alexas, which just add to it. But if you have a television, right? Most people are talking into your remote control, right? You're like, put on AMC, put on ESPN. Okay, well, that just is proof that what? Okay, well, the television can listen to you and respond, right? All these things are doing that. So we're all already imprisoned in our home. The next step is keeping you trapped in there, which is part of what COVID was. And COVID is going to expand into the carbon footprint. It's going to be the same rules, masks, limited time outside, right? So they're trying to convince you to not go out as much. They're trying to make it convenient for you to Uber eat every day, to have your groceries delivered to your front door. That's what it's about. And you stay in your little cell. Now, when you leave your cell, it's extremely important that you are under their control. And in a gas-powered vehicle, you're not under their control because you could flee, because you can keep filling it up. An electric vehicle, guess what? They'll be able to say, hey, you already gassed this thing up with electricity once, you're rationed, you get to do it once a month, that's it, and you get to go X amount of miles. That's part of the goal. Restricted travel. Remember all the travel bans during COVID, right? Gonna be the same exact world that they're trying to create. It was a test run that also included people who were dumb enough to poison their own bodies. So that's where we're at now. And that's why not only are you gonna hear stories about the gas prices being so insane that, NBC, all these news stations are going to push, why don't people go electric? Oh, look how Ford and all these people are now lowering their prices for electric vehicles. Look, they're so much cheaper. They're so much cheaper than gas power. That people are going to feel forced into it because they can't afford to live anymore. Because the groceries, everything is so expensive. Inflation's so high. People, they pretend like it's not on the news. Everybody out there knows how ridiculous it is. They're taking people's jobs away, replacing people with robots. It's happening, right? It's happening. And you're going to hear stuff about gas being so high that you can't afford it. Guess what? You're also going to hear about rationing, because they're going to bring that back too. And that's going to force people into electric, because they're going to go, well, if they're rationing my gas, then I might as well go electric because I can't even get the amount of gas that I want. But they really have no control, in a sense, over rationing unless you're going to the same pump every day, right? They can't really track and monitor you if there's still cash out there, which is another thing they want to remove, which is part of Agenda 2030 as well. A cashless society, an electric society, everything on a control grid. And you, of course, are the lab rat in the maze that can't escape. So the stories coming out of Iran are the attack on the school, which, again, you take all the stories with a grain of salt because you don't know, right? You don't know. Just like when we hear school shooting in the United States. Nope. I'm not buying any of it for the most part. I get it that some of them could be real and they could happen. And if I'm a parent out there of one of the kids and they hear someone like me say, oh, I don't think it really happened, I find it unimaginable that you would actually care what someone on the internet has to say about the event, if your kid really died or not. I would assume that your life would be ruined and you wouldn't be looking in comment sections under videos on YouTube, because all you're going to find are people trolling and everything else. But we don't know for sure what happened, if there was even kids in the school, if it was an empty school. But we do know they love sacrificing children, so that would make us say, well, good possibility they did blow up a school with kids in it, because there's your human sacrifice, right? I mean, they do it every single day. Your government, the Israel, all the governments, okay? And remember, this is about sweeping the people out. The Greater Israel Expansion, which I talked about in my previous video, which was removed, which is available on the website. But for 1 second, do not think that the leaders in Iran are against the leaders in Israel. These guys are working together against the people, okay? Because they pretend in Iran, oh, yeah, we want to fight and go after these people. We hate these people. We love our people. They have to do that, because if the people in Iran found out, or the people in all these people, if they found out that their governments are working against them, and all this was them genociding the civilians around the world would band together, and these people would be out, done, finito, right? So they have to pretend, oh, we're at war with each other, and these are the people you should be mad at, pointing over there, when they're allowing it to happen. They're allowing it to happen. It's no different than, somebody coming in, excavating land or taking the land, building out. That's what they're doing, building out the Greater Israel. And the governments are working together to do it. And the only casualties of war in the year 2026 are the people. So real people do get killed. People do have their lives destroyed. They lose their children. They lose their homes. There's nothing funny about that at all. But just remember, the narrative that they give you is a complete joke. And it shows you in the headlines. Oops, America admits to blowing up school, or says they may have, but they had bad intel. Oh, they had bad intel in 2026 that they blew up a school. They can't figure out where a school is versus a government building over there. In fact, they supposedly hit the building twice. It's laughable what people believe. And then people in MAGA are like, oh, they didn't know. It was an accident. It was an accident, right? Just like Trump with Epstein hanging out every single time they could find one another, right? They're in 7,000 photos together. Yeah, he doesn't like him, though. They just took pictures of him, when they were around each other. They just happen to be around each other every single day. These people make up stories in their own mind. They dismiss this stuff because they want to, because they're loyal to their party. They don't even realize that they're communists themselves, even Republicans. Loyal to their party. So that is an open invitation for an attack on U.S. soil, and that could potentially lead to an attack on a university or some type of school. Remember, part of the future in Agenda 2030, okay, part of why you've heard all this stuff about college campuses, they don't want you to go to college anymore. It's not because they don't want to indoctrinate you, and they're telling you what a waste of money college is and how people can't pay their debt off, because they want to do all this stuff online. So the more, destroy the college campus, destroy a historic college campus, tell us it was Iran, make people more afraid to go to universities, because Iran's going to say, we're going to target more universities, right? And you get more people learning on the, everything they want is everyone to be connected 24/7 online. And of course, we know the Internet of Bodies has you connected to that as well as a part of Agenda 2030. And don't forget that vehicle narrative as well, the electric vehicle. It might not seem like much, but when you go over to CNN or CNBC or any of these garbage websites, All you're seeing are pictures of oil tankers getting blown up. Is that your concern? I mean, I get it affects people at the pumps, but is that what you're thinking about? You're like, what's going on over with the conflict over there? Oh, U.S. bombs another oil tanker. Oh, Iran bombs a U.S. oil tanker. Oh, how could this is all they're showing everybody out there? Then they're just jacking up the gas prices, which is part of the plan. And then all the major news media outlets come out days later and start talking about maybe you should get an electric car. Maybe you should get an electric car. Maybe you should get an electric car. Maybe it's safer to go electric. Maybe it's easier to go electric. Oh, the people who went electric are winning right now. People who refuse to go electric are losing right now because they're losing this is basic government mind control. Very easy to see. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.